20 R&B stars who couldn't stop cheating. What if the smoothest voices in R&B, the men who sang about devotion, passion, and forever love, were hiding some of the most shocking betrayals in music history? For years, fans believed their lyrics. But behind closed doors, many of these legends were living double lives, filled with secrets, scandals, and affairs that would eventually explode into the public eye. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the 20 R&B stars who couldn't stop cheating. And trust me, the truth is far messier than the music ever revealed. Before we begin, hit subscribe to join Legends of Black Excellence, where real stories meet raw truth. Jay-Z. Among the 20 R&B connected stars whose love lives were wrecked by infidelity, Jay-Z is one of the most emblematic cases. For years, he and Beyoncé were seen as the gold standard of a modern power couple. Two superstar artists, carefully private, seemingly unshakable. Their tours, collaborations, and shared business empire projected stability and control. Then, a single security clip changed everything. In 2014, the world watched grainy elevator footage of Solange Knowles angrily confronting Jay-Z after the Met Gala while Beyoncé stood between them. No audio, no explanation, just a tense, unforgettable scene that made fans wonder what was happening behind closed doors. Answers arrived not in a press conference, but through music. In 2016, Beyoncé released Lemonade, a visual album built around themes of hurt, betrayal, rage, and forgiveness. Listeners immediately connected the lyrics to marital infidelity with Becky, with the good hair becoming a cultural flashpoint. Though she never spelled out names or dates, the emotional truth was clear: trust had been broken. A year later, Jay-Z responded with 444, an unusually vulnerable record for a man who built his image on toughness and control. On that album, he admitted to emotional failings, selfishness, and actions that almost destroyed his family, effectively confirming what had only been implied before. Within the wider story of 20 R&B stars who couldn't stop cheating, Jay-Z's chapter is notable because it didn't end with a permanent split or endless denial. Instead, he and Beyoncé chose to confront the damage, seek counseling, and slowly rebuild their relationship in the public eye. They turned a private crisis into a pair of landmark albums about accountability and healing. His story shows that even the most disciplined, successful men can betray the vows they sing about, and that earning back trust can be a longer, harder journey than any climb to the top of the charts. Diddy Sean Combs. Diddy's long and complicated romantic history remains one of the most discussed examples of infidelity in the R&B and hip-hop world, largely because it unfolded over many years and involved people who were deeply connected to his personal and professional life. For more than 13 years, he and model actress Kim Porter shared an on and off partnership that included 3 children and a blended family admired by many fans. Outwardly, they appeared close and unified even during the periods when they weren't officially together. But away from the cameras, their relationship was continually strained by Diddy's involvement with other women, something both insiders and tabloids quietly acknowledged long before it became undeniable. The turning point arrived in 2007 when Kim Porter decided to end the relationship permanently. That same year, Diddy confirmed he had fathered a daughter, Chance, with Sarah Chapman, while still romantically involved with Porter. There was no ambiguity in the timeline, and the public acknowledgement made everything clear. For Porter, who had spent years navigating emotional turbulence and trying to hold the family together, this was the final breach of trust. Though the two eventually rebuilt a respectful friendship and co-parented with remarkable harmony, the intimate bond that once defined them could not survive the impact of long-term infidelity. In the larger story of famous men in R&B and its surrounding culture who struggled with fidelity, Diddy's experience is notable for how gradually it unfolded and how deeply it affected the people around him. His romantic life was never a single scandal, but a pattern that stretched across decades, shaping his public image even as he rose to the top of the music industry. And while he and Kim Porter ultimately found peace for the sake of their children, their story remains a reminder that repeated betrayal has lasting consequences, even for those who seem to have everything. Usher. Usher's story is one of the most memorable chapters in the conversation about R&B stars whose personal lives clashed with the romantic fantasy painted in their music. At the height of his early success, he entered a highly public relationship with Rozonda Chili Thomas of TLC, a pairing fans adored. They were young, talented, and seemed perfectly matched. For a time, they were viewed as one of the genre's most promising couples. But beneath the surface, tension grew. By 2003, the relationship abruptly ended, leaving the public confused, until Chili herself later explained that infidelity had been the deciding factor. Her openness confirmed what many had only suspected: the man who sang of passion and devotion had struggled to practice it in real life. The emotional fallout of that breakup created a powerful backdrop for one of the most influential R&B albums of the 2000s. When Confessions was released in 2004, listeners immediately connected its themes of guilt, dishonesty, and remorse to his separation from Chili. The album spoke of secret relationships, unexpected consequences, and a man forced to confront the damage he caused. Though Usher clarified years later that the project drew from multiple real-life experiences within his creative circle, not exclusively his own, the public couldn't help linking the music to his history. The timing, the heartbreak, and the raw honesty of the songs cemented Confessions as a cultural moment. For many fans, the album felt like a musical admission, whether or not that was the artist's original intent. In the years that followed, Usher continued to face scrutiny over his romantic life, including the end of his marriage to Tamika Foster and later to Grace Miguel. While those separations were complex and not defined solely by infidelity, they added to the perception that stability in love remained elusive for him. Through it all, his talent never faded. He stayed one of R&B's most enduring and influential figures. Yet his story remains a reminder that even artists who create some of the greatest love songs of their generation can wrestle with the very commitments their music celebrates. Chris Brown. Chris Brown's journey through fame has always been intense, but nowhere is that intensity more visible than in his relationships. After his highly publicized breakup with Rihanna in 2009, he entered an on-again, off-again relationship with model Karrueche Tran. For a while, the two appeared to rebuild something stable. They were frequently photographed together, shared public moments of affection, and seemed determined to move forward from the chaos of his earlier years. But behind the scenes, Brown struggled with commitment, and rumors of him reconnecting with past partners or communicating with new women followed the couple almost from the beginning. Karrueche often tried to remain private, but the pressure surrounding their relationship grew heavier with each new headline. Everything reached a breaking point in 2015 when news broke that Chris Brown had fathered a daughter, Royalty, with Naya Guzman. The revelation didn't surface through a statement or a quiet conversation. It spread across the internet and entertainment news before Karrueche ever heard it directly from him. For her, learning such life-changing information through the media was a deep betrayal. She ended the relationship immediately, telling fans she wished him the best, but could no longer navigate the repeated pain. Brown later expressed his affection and respect for her, but the consequences of his actions were irreversible. The birth of his daughter became a turning point in his career and public image, but it also marked the end of a relationship that had already endured multiple fractures. In the years that followed, Brown continued to face challenges surrounding trust, consistency, and emotional maturity, though he developed a strong, loving bond with his daughter and took pride in fatherhood. His romantic life has remained turbulent, with brief relationships and public disagreements, reminding audiences that stability does not come easily for him. Despite his incredible talent and undeniable influence on modern R&B, his personal choices have repeatedly overshadowed his music. Chris Brown's story illustrates how fame can magnify every mistake, and how infidelity, especially when it involves secrecy and broken communication, can change the course of a relationship forever. John Legend. John Legend's polished image as one of modern music's most devoted husbands often surprises people when they learn what he has openly admitted about his past. Long before he married Chrissy Teigen, he lived a very different kind of romantic life, one defined by constant travel-rising fame and a mindset that made commitment difficult. Years later, in a candid interview, Legend explained that in his earlier 20s, he struggled with discipline and maturity, and he often stepped outside the boundaries of his relationships. At the time, he wasn't yet the household name he would become, and the combination of youthful ego and opportunity led him into choices he later regretted. His honesty about those years offered a rare glimpse behind the calm, controlled persona fans recognize today. Everything shifted when he met Chrissy Teigen in 2006. They connected first through humor and easy conversation, and Legend has often said that she challenged him in ways no one had before. Their bond developed slowly, yet with a clarity that felt new to him. As the relationship deepened, the lifestyle he once lived no longer felt sustainable or aligned with the kind of partner he wanted to be. He has spoken openly about that transition, acknowledging that the loyalty and stability people now associate with him were learned, not innate. Their marriage, celebrated for its openness and affection, became proof of the personal growth he had embraced. For Legend, choosing fidelity was not simply about avoiding mistakes, but about valuing the relationship he didn't want to lose. Though his past included missteps, John Legend's story differs from many R&B figures whose infidelity continued throughout their careers. His journey reflects change, responsibility, and a willingness to confront who he once was. The man who wrote All of Me, a modern wedding classic, did not create that song from a place of perfection, but from experience, understanding how easily love can be damaged and how important it is to protect it once you find someone worth the effort. Ne-Yo. Ne-Yo's reputation as a smooth songwriter who understood love and heartbreak took a sharp turn when the truth about his personal relationships came to light. Early in his career, he appeared to build a stable family with his first partner, Monyetta Shaw, sharing 2 children and presenting a united front. Their split raised questions, but it wasn't until years later that the public learned how deeply their relationship had been affected by his choices. When Ne-Yo married Crystal Renee in 2016, fans thought he had finally entered a new chapter built on maturity. The couple often spoke publicly about renewal commitment and the strength of their bond, especially after hosting a lavish vow renewal ceremony in 2022 that was meant to symbolize a fresh start. But behind the glamorous photos, trouble was already surfacing. Only months after that ceremony, everything unraveled. Crystal Renee posted a public statement revealing that Ne-Yo had been unfaithful to her for years, describing a pattern of betrayal that stretched across their entire 8-year relationship. She alleged not only repeated infidelity, but also that he had fathered a child with another woman during the marriage. Her announcement was direct and unfiltered, leaving no room for speculation. The confession shocked fans because the couple had presented themselves as reconciled and stronger than ever just weeks before. Ne-Yo responded by requesting privacy, but court filings soon followed confirming that the marriage was ending as Crystal sought divorce on the grounds of irreconcilable differences. The breakup placed Ne-Yo among the most talked-about R&B figures whose actions contradicted the romantic ideals in their music. Unlike some entertainers who faced a single scandal, his situation highlighted a long-term pattern that affected multiple partners across different stages of his life. Yet even amid controversy, he maintained a steady career and continued performing while publicly expressing a desire to co-parent peacefully. His story remains a reminder that the image of a gentleman crafted on stage doesn't always reflect the choices made behind closed doors, and that betrayal, when persistent, can dismantle even the most carefully built relationships. Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart's cheating scandal became one of the most widely discussed moments in modern celebrity culture, not just because of who he is, but because of how publicly everything unfolded. After building a career on honesty, relatability, and family-centered humor, Kevin appeared to be entering a stable second marriage with Eniko Parish. She was 8 months pregnant with their first child together when a video surfaced in 2017 showing him in a compromising situation with another woman during a trip to Las Vegas. The footage didn't circulate quietly. It exploded across the internet with headlines, commentary, and speculation, putting enormous pressure on Hart and his family long before he could explain anything privately. The situation quickly escalated when Kevin revealed he was being extorted over the video. Instead of paying, he posted a public apology on social media addressed directly to Eniko and his children. The message was emotional and direct, acknowledging the hurt he caused and taking responsibility without excuses. It was a rare moment when a celebrity confronted his failure before the press could define the narrative. Still, the damage was undeniable. Eniko later shared in interviews that the experience was deeply painful, though she ultimately chose to work through the betrayal with him. The scandal became a central storyline in Hart's documentary series, Don't Fuck This Up, offering an unfiltered look at the difficult conversations and emotional fallout inside their marriage. Kevin Hart's infidelity placed him in the broader conversation surrounding entertainers who struggled with commitment despite presenting a wholesome image to the public. But unlike some who deny or downplay their actions, Hart confronted his mistake head-on, emphasizing growth, accountability, and the hard work of rebuilding trust. His story underscores a truth familiar in the entertainment world. Fame can magnify temptation, but it also magnifies consequences. And for Hart, the path forward depended not on jokes or charm, but on demonstrating with time and consistency that he could be the partner and father he claimed to be. R. Kelly. R. Kelly's history with infidelity is only one part of a much larger and deeply troubled personal life, yet it played a significant role in the collapse of his marriages and long-term relationships. During the 1990s, he entered a relationship with Andrea Kelly, a professional dancer who later became his wife. From the outside, they appeared to be building a traditional family together, eventually welcoming 3 children. But privately, the marriage was strained by long absences, emotional distance, and behavior that Drea would later describe as a pattern of constant unfaithfulness. She spoke openly about how frequently he engaged with other women while appearing committed at home, leaving her feeling isolated and unable to trust the stability of the relationship. The secrecy surrounding his actions made the betrayal even more painful, ultimately contributing to her decision to leave the marriage. As the years went on, more details surfaced from women who had been romantically linked to him, many of whom described overlapping timelines and hidden relationships that undermined any sense of loyalty. These accounts highlighted a consistent pattern. R. Kelly moved between partners while maintaining the appearance of exclusivity. For someone whose music centered so heavily on desire, devotion, and emotional intensity, his real-life behavior told a very different story. Infidelity wasn't an occasional slip, but a repeated choice woven through long stretches of his personal life. Even before his more serious legal troubles became widely known, rumors about his unfaithfulness were already circulating in the industry, painting a picture of a man who struggled or didn't attempt to maintain faithfulness in any committed relationship. Within the broader discussion of celebrities who couldn't stop cheating, R. Kelly's story stands out because infidelity was only the surface layer of a much deeper pattern of harmful behavior. His inability to remain loyal strained. His marriage damaged his public image and foreshadowed the darker revelations that would eventually overshadow his entire career. Today, the focus rightfully remains on the more serious issues that led to his legal downfall, but his long history of betrayal within relationships remains a reminder of how early warning signs can reflect far more complex personal problems beneath the surface. Nas's romantic life has long been intertwined with his public persona, but the most defining chapter came during his marriage to singer and chef Kelis. When they wed in 2005, fans saw them as a striking, artistic pair, 2 creative forces from different corners of the music world coming together. For several years, they maintained a relatively private relationship, rarely inviting tabloids into their home. That privacy made their sudden split in 2009 all the more surprising, especially because Kelis filed for divorce while 7 months pregnant with their son. At the time, neither party offered much explanation, fueling curiosity about what had gone wrong beneath the surface. Years later, Kellis finally spoke openly about the breakdown of their marriage, and her account added clarity to long-circulating rumors. She revealed that infidelity played a significant role in her decision to leave, describing a pattern of dishonesty and emotional strain that she no longer felt able to navigate. Her statements confirmed what had been whispered among fans, that Nas, despite his reputation for introspective poetic lyricism, struggled with commitment in his personal life. She explained that by the time she filed for divorce, the trust between them had eroded beyond repair. The arrival of their son brought joy, but it could not mend the foundation that had already cracked. Their separation highlighted how even relationships that began with strong chemistry can falter when trust repeatedly breaks down. In the years following the divorce, Nas rarely addressed the claims directly, choosing instead to focus on co-parenting and his music. But Kellis's account left a lasting impression, placing their marriage among the most notable examples of infidelity within the R&B and hip-hop community. Their story underscores a familiar truth. Creative brilliance does not protect anyone from the challenges of commitment, and unresolved issues behind closed doors can reshape even the most admired partnerships. Despite the end of their marriage, both artists continued to build successful careers. But the shadow of their breakup remains a reminder of how deeply betrayal can alter the course of two intertwined lives. Offset. Offset's relationship with Cardi B became one of the most closely followed modern celebrity romances, not only because of their music careers, but because of the repeated infidelity scandals that unfolded publicly. From the moment they secretly married in 2017, the couple was surrounded by both admiration and scrutiny. Only months after their wedding, leaked videos surfaced showing Offset in what appeared to be intimate situations with other women. Though he issued apologies and the couple tried to move forward, the incident planted the first cracks in their foundation. Cardi, then rising rapidly in her career, found herself balancing motherhood fame and the emotional toll of betrayal, all under the glare of constant media attention. As the years passed, new controversies emerged with startling regularity. Screenshots of alleged direct messages, voice clips, and social media claims from women accusing him of reaching out to them continued to appear online. Each time, fans wondered whether the marriage could survive another blow. In 2020, Cardi filed for divorce, citing that they were no longer seeing eye to eye. Although she didn't explicitly mention infidelity in the filing, the public history of repeated accusations made the underlying reasons seem clear. The divorce filing was later withdrawn, and the two reconciled once more, demonstrating the complicated mix of love, loyalty, and frustration that defined their bond. Offset's behavior became widely referenced as an example of how fame, temptation, and lack of boundaries can repeatedly undermine a relationship, no matter how deep the affection between partners. His journey reflects a pattern familiar in entertainment circles: apologies followed by renewed hope, then fresh controversy that reignited old wounds. Yet through every scandal, the pair continued to perform together, raise their children, and attempt to rebuild what had been damaged. Their story illustrates how repeated breaches of trust can overshadow even the strongest chemistry, leaving a relationship caught between genuine connection and unresolved patterns that refuse to fade. Trey Songz. Trey Songz built his career on a seductive image, smooth vocals, confident charisma, and lyrics centered on romance and desire. But as his fame grew, so did the perception that his personal life mirrored the playboy persona he portrayed in his music. Throughout the late 2000s and 2010s, he was linked to a number of high-profile women, yet none of these relationships seemed to last long. Former partners often hinted online about sudden breakups, mixed signals, or the discovery that he had been involved with other women at the same time. While Trey never presented himself as someone seeking a traditional, settled-down lifestyle, the pattern of overlapping relationships created a public impression that commitment was not one of his strengths. His behavior became a recurring topic in interviews, social media debates, and celebrity commentary, solidifying a reputation for inconsistency behind the scenes. What made his romantic history especially notable was the number of private messages, leaked conversations, and indirect statements from women who described a similar experience: affection when things were convenient, distance when he found new attention elsewhere. Models, influencers, and actresses who had brief relationships with him rarely offered details, but they shared a consistent implication that remaining faithful was never realistic with Trey Songz. Even his connection with Lori Harvey, one of the most visible personalities he dated, ended abruptly, fueling speculation that the same cycle had repeated once again. These stories were never treated as isolated incidents, but as part of a recognizable pattern tied to his larger lifestyle. As years passed, Trey continued releasing music and performing, but the reputation that followed him became difficult to escape. To many observers, his romantic life seemed to revolve around short-lived connections rather than long-term commitment, reinforcing the idea that he thrived on attention and novelty rather than stability. His case reflects a familiar theme in the world of R&B. When an artist's persona is built around desire and constant temptation, maintaining loyalty becomes a challenge that few successfully overcome. For Trey Songz, the image of a ladies' man wasn't just a stage character. It was a reality that shaped every relationship he touched. Bobby Brown. Bobby Brown's reputation as the bad boy of R&B wasn't just a marketing label. It reflected a personal life marked by chaos, temptation, and choices that repeatedly pulled him away from stability. Long before he married Whitney Houston, he had already developed a pattern of drifting in and out of relationships, often giving in to the temptations that came with fame. When he and Whitney wed in 1992, the world saw a glamorous powerhouse couple, two global superstars, wildly talented and larger than life. But behind the bright lights and lavish stages, their marriage quickly became strained by emotional volatility, substance issues, and a lack of fidelity. Bobby later admitted in interviews and in his autobiography that he had not been faithful during their marriage, acknowledging that the pressures and excesses of fame amplified his worst impulses. His candor confirmed what many had long suspected, that betrayal had become a recurring wound in their relationship. The turbulence between Bobby and Whitney was regularly magnified by the media, creating a public narrative that often overshadowed their love for each other. Whitney, who was navigating her own personal struggles, faced an even more difficult path as Bobby's infidelity added another layer of instability. Brown himself described moments where, while on tour or surrounded by enablers, he slipped into behavior that directly contradicted the vows he had made. Their marriage, which had begun with such promise, soon became symbolic of the darker side of celebrity life, where fame magnifies temptation and emotional vulnerability makes even the strongest partnerships fragile. While the two shared undeniable chemistry, the constant cycle of conflict, distance, and betrayal ultimately proved too heavy for them to overcome. After their separation in 2007, Brown reflected more openly on the ways his infidelity contributed to the erosion of their relationship. He didn't excuse his actions, often acknowledging that he allowed his environment to control him rather than the other way around. His story fits squarely into the legacy of R&B figures, whose music often celebrated love and devotion, even while their real lives revealed struggles with loyalty and commitment. Today, Bobby Brown's romantic history serves as a reminder that fame does not insulate anyone from personal failings, and that unfaithfulness, especially repeated over many years, can unravel even the most iconic love story. Swizz Beatz. Swizz Beatz's love life became one of the most talked about controversies in the R&B and hip-hop world, not because he sought attention, but because the timeline surrounding his relationships raised questions that lingered for years. When he was still married to singer Mashonda, the two appeared to be building a stable family with their young son. Yet behind closed doors, their marriage was already under strain. In 2009, as rumors began swirling that Swizz had grown close to global superstar Alicia Keys, speculation about a deeper connection quickly intensified. Mashonda later shared publicly that she believed the affair began long before their separation was finalized, describing emotional confusion and a sense of betrayal that made moving forward impossible. Her open letter, released in 2009, became one of the most widely discussed statements of the decade, giving fans an unfiltered look at how infidelity can fracture a family long before the public ever senses trouble. As Swizz and Alicia Keys eventually confirmed their relationship, the public conversation shifted again. Many fans questioned the timing, while others defended the couple's claim that Swizz's marriage was already ending when the romance began. Despite the conflicting narratives, what remained clear was that Mashonda felt blindsided by how quickly her ex-husband had moved on. The emotional fallout from that period highlighted the painful complexity of relationships where love fades unevenly, and where one partner may already be emotionally gone, while the other still believes there is something left to save. Whether intentional or not, the overlap between the two relationships created wounds that took years to fully mend. In the years that followed, Swizz Beatz, Alicia Keys, and Mashonda achieved something rarely seen after such a public scandal. They built a genuinely blended and respectful family dynamic. Co-parenting evolved into cooperation, and cooperation grew into true harmony. Yet the controversy remains an unforgettable chapter in Swizz Beatz's story, because it reflected the turbulence that fame, temptation, and unresolved relationships can ignite. His experience stands as a reminder that even the most successful artists can stumble in their personal lives, and that rebuilding trust once broken can require years of effort, humility, and reflection. Fabulous. Fabulous's long-term relationship with Emily B became one of the most visible examples of repeated infidelity in the R&B hip-hop world, largely because so much of their private turmoil played out on national television. From the early seasons of Love and Hip Hop, viewers saw Emily struggling with rumors, late-night calls, and constant whispers about Fabulous being involved with other women. Even though he rarely appeared on the show himself, his absence only amplified the narrative. While he and Emily were building a family together, his behavior behind the scenes often contradicted the image of a committed partner. Throughout the 2010s, blogs and gossip sites regularly published photos and claims linking him to models and influencers, creating a cycle of public embarrassment that Emily had to confront repeatedly. What made their story so memorable was the emotional tension between love and disappointment. Emily often tried to protect her family's privacy, yet the recurring pattern of infidelity forced her into painful on-camera conversations about whether loyalty was being returned. At times, they briefly split only for Fabulous to reappear in her life again, reflecting the real-world dynamic many couples face when affection collides with unresolved betrayal. Each new rumor or leaked image felt like a reopened wound, especially because viewers had already seen her struggle so openly. The visibility of their relationship didn't just expose the cheating, it magnified it. Despite everything, Fabulous and Emily continued to build a life together, welcoming more children and occasionally showing moments of unity that suggested progress. Yet the public perception of their relationship remained shaped by the years of scandals that made headlines. For many fans, Fabulous became a prime example of how fame, access, and temptation can destabilize even the longest relationships. His story fits squarely within the narrative of R&B-connected stars who couldn't maintain fidelity, reminding audiences that success in music does not guarantee discipline or honesty in love, and that repairing trust once broken is often more challenging than any career milestone. Lamar Odom. Lamar Odom's relationship with Khloe Kardashian began like a whirlwind fairy tale. Two people meeting, falling in love, and marrying within just 1 month in 2009. For a while, their marriage looked surprisingly steady despite the rapid timeline. They starred in a hit reality series together, projected warmth and humor, and seemed to balance each other's strengths. But behind the friendly banter and televised romance, Lamar was already privately struggling with long-standing addiction issues, and an inability to remain faithful. In his 2019 memoir, Darkness to Light, he admitted openly that he had cheated on Chloe throughout their marriage, describing a lifestyle fueled by drugs, secrecy, and affairs he claimed he couldn't even keep count of. The double life eventually became impossible to hide, and the emotional distance between them continued to widen. As Lamar's struggles intensified, so did the consequences. Chloe discovered affairs by finding him in compromising situations, and the betrayals came at times when she was desperately trying to support his recovery. Paparazzi reports and tabloid leaks only added public pressure to a marriage already weighed down by private turmoil. While Chloe remained patient longer than many expected working with Lamar to address his addictions, the combination of dishonesty and infidelity eventually pushed their relationship past the breaking point. By 2013, she filed for divorce, though the legal process stalled as his personal crisis escalated. The marriage had shifted from a promising union into a painful cycle of hope followed by disappointment. Despite the heartbreak, their story took a compassionate turn when Lamar suffered a near-fatal overdose in 2015. Chloe stepped in to help manage his medical care, demonstrating that affection and loyalty still existed even after betrayal had shattered the marriage itself. In the years since, Lamar has spoken with remorse about the ways his unfaithfulness damaged their relationship, acknowledging that the fame and temptations surrounding him amplified habits he never learned to control. His story remains one of the most public examples of how repeated cheating can unravel even the strongest emotional connection, and how personal demons can overshadow love opportunity and the chance at a stable life. Eric Benet. Eric Benet's romance with Halle Berry once looked like a picture-perfect Hollywood love story, two stunning, talented stars who seemed completely devoted to each other. When they married in 2001, the public saw them as a rare example of a celebrity couple who had found something real. But behind the scenes, the marriage was already under pressure. Only 2 years later, in 2003, their separation shocked fans, and soon afterward, reports emerged that infidelity had played a central role. Multiple sources close to the couple confirmed that Eric had been unfaithful more than once, creating a pattern that Halle Berry could no longer ignore. Their split became one of the most widely discussed celebrity breakups of the early 2000s, especially because it contradicted the polished romantic image he had built as an R&B singer. What made the situation even more public was Eric Benet's decision to enter a 30-day treatment program widely reported at the time as treatment for sex addiction. Though he later disputed that label, the admission alone fueled intense media scrutiny. Fans questioned how someone married to one of the most admired women in the world could risk everything, and critics pointed to a long string of behaviors that suggested deeper issues with impulse and commitment. The contrast between his smooth, heartfelt music and the turmoil of his real life made the scandal even more striking. Instead of a single mistake, it appeared that infidelity had become a recurring issue that strained every part of their marriage. By the time their divorce was finalized in 2005, Eric's reputation had taken a significant hit, and his name became almost synonymous with celebrity cheating scandals. While he eventually moved on to rebuild his personal life and career, the fallout from his marriage to Halle Berry left a lasting impression in pop culture. His story remains a cautionary example of how repeated betrayal can unravel even the most promising relationship, and how fame, temptation, and unresolved personal struggles can turn a celebrated love story into a painful public lesson. Tristan Thompson. Tristan Thompson's relationship with Khloe Kardashian became one of the most talked about modern examples of repeated infidelity, largely because every scandal unfolded in real time under the brightest spotlight imaginable. Their romance began in 2016 and for a moment looked promising. But just days before Khloe gave birth to their daughter True in April 2018, TMZ released surveillance footage showing Tristan with multiple women. The timing stunned the public. Even as Khloe prepared to welcome their first child, she was forced to confront evidence that shattered the trust they'd built. Though she chose to stay with him temporarily for the sake of their newborn, the betrayal never fully left the conversation surrounding them. The situation escalated again in 2019 when reports surfaced that Tristan had been involved with Jordan Woods, Kylie Jenner's best friend, and someone Khloe considered family. The revelation became a cultural firestorm, dominating headlines and social media for weeks. Jordan denied that the encounter went beyond a kiss, but the damage was already done. Khloe and Tristan split, and the fallout fractured friendships, divided fans, and became a defining storyline across multiple seasons of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Yet even after such a dramatic rupture, the couple eventually reconciled, attempting once more to rebuild stability for their daughter. But the pattern continued. In late 2021, Tristan publicly confirmed that he had fathered a son with fitness model Marilee Nichols conceived, while he was still involved with Khloe and planning a future with her, including a surrogate pregnancy for their second child. Court documents and DNA tests made the situation impossible to deny. His public apology to Khloe only highlighted how deeply the cycle of infidelity had repeated. Despite their complicated co-parenting relationship, the scandals cemented Tristan Thompson as one of the most notorious examples of a celebrity who simply couldn't remain faithful. His story serves as a stark reminder of how repeated betrayal erodes even the most forgiving hearts, and how public scrutiny magnifies every private mistake. Sean Stockman Boys Second. Min. Sean Stockman's image for most of his career was built on purity, romance, and emotional honesty. As one of the lead vocalists of Boys II Men, the group behind timeless love songs like I'll Make Love to You and End of the Road, he embodied the ideal of the gentle, faithful R&B man. That's why his cheating scandal stunned so many longtime fans. For years, Sean maintained a quiet family life with his wife, Sharonda Jones, raising their children away from the chaos of celebrity. But in 2016, that carefully protected privacy shattered when he appeared in a self-recorded video on social media looking solemn and emotional, and publicly admitted he had been unfaithful. The confession was startling, not only because it came directly from him, but because it hinted at more than a single lapse. Rumors had been circulating for some time that Sean's marriage had been strained by repeated infidelity. In his apology, he expressed deep remorse for the pain he caused his wife, acknowledging that his actions had gone against everything he claimed to stand for. Fans struggled to reconcile the man who sang some of the most heartfelt love ballads of the 90s with the reality of someone who had repeatedly betrayed the vows he celebrated through music. The contrast between his public persona and private behavior became a central part of why the scandal spread so quickly. What made Sean's situation different from many other celebrity cheating scandals was the vulnerability he showed afterward. He and Sharonda chose to stay together and work through the damage, a decision that required years of rebuilding trust behind the scenes. Yet the incident remains a significant chapter in his legacy, a reminder that even the most polished and romantic performers can fall into the same temptations that follow fame, travel, and adoration. Sean Stockman's story underscores how easily real-life actions can fracture an image carefully built over decades, and how the wounds caused by infidelity can linger long after the public apology has faded. In the end, the stories of these R&B legends raise a question that still divides fans: are their betrayals simply the consequence of fame or reflections of deeper personal flaws? Some insist that constant touring, adoration, and temptation make loyalty nearly impossible. Others argue that character, not celebrity, determines faithfulness. What's undeniable is that behind chart-topping love songs often lie complicated, imperfect lives. And as long as these scandals exist, the debate will continue. Should we judge the art by the actions of the artist, or can the two truly be separated? Tell us what you think right here on Legends of Black Excellence.